Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here, and today is my Sunday tutorial, and hopefully it will still be Sunday when this gets posted. And you can see I have this big huge bag of corks on my desk, and this is going to be our project for today. We are going to turn these corks into some really fast, super easy boho style tassels. Now, whether you use them for your junk journals or to maybe decorate your room or decorate something in your room or maybe as a purse dangle, they are so fun and so easy to make and use limited supplies. So for example, we're going to use a cork and a paper clip. I'm using the large paper clips, like not the super jumbo ones, but just the regular large. And in case you're wondering, this is a magnetic dish. I picked these up at the dollar store in the kind of in the hardware section, and look at that. Isn't that awesome? Okay, one fell out only because it was up at the top. But these are great for holding all kinds of things. I have one filled with safety pins. I have one filled with sewing pins and with needles. They are so handy, and they're magnetic, and the magnets, I think, stick to the other end. If you have something metal, they'll stick to the other side as well. Really handy. I think I paid $1 or $2 for them. Anyway, to get started, you need some corks. Now, my husband is a winemaker, so we always have bags and bags of these corks in the house. If you buy wine kits, they usually supply you with a bag anywhere from 50 to 100, and you never use that many in a wine kit. If you don't have them, you can pick them up at the wine stores by the bags, and they're not expensive, a few dollars per bag. Or scout for them when you're out thrifting. You'd be surprised. I've seen many, many bags of corks for sale at thrift shops. And you can also use used corks. So you can phone a friend who's a wino, or if you are a wino yourself, and save your corks to use for making tassels. So as I said, the other thing that we need is a paper clip, and you need a pair of wire cutters. So a paper clip has the two loops, one on each end here, but you see there's a third one on the inside. So what I do is I cut off one outside loop first, just leaving a little bit of a piece, sort of about a ½ an inch. You can see, hold it like that. There. So it's about a ½ an inch long, maybe a little bit longer. And that leaves you two more pieces. Now, they don't always cut out like that. It just happened this time that it did, which was lucky. But I usually try to cut two at the same time because each of these little loops is a little different in size. So let's see if we can make that work again. Okay, so I cut off the one that's on the single end. So I'm just going to cut it. And yeah, the other two do fall apart. So if you cut the single one first and then the other two. So I line them up and match them up because they are all just slightly different in size. Not that it really matters. I've mixed and matched and used them both the same, or two different ones at the same time, but whatever happens, happens. So I'm just going to trim these down. They're a little bit long. Using my wire cutters, and they don't have to be the same length with the other second one, just as long as the two ends are the same length for each one. And these ones are way too long, so I'm going to trim them down. Same thing. As long as they're even, it doesn't matter if they're not the same size as the other one. And as much as I'd like to say I have a project for this, I don't. So this is just the scrap that I'm throwing out. Now, if you were to try to push the two ends of this into the cork, it can be done, but it can sometimes be painful. So what I do is I take a push pin. Now I just happen to have a fancy brass one, but you know, the plastic multicolored ones work just as well. And it's a lot easier on your hands. And when I push the pin in, I'm kind of thinking about the center, knowing that these two ends have to go in there. So you kind of think about where you want the holes to be, but I make them a little bit closer than the paper clip, because I like to squeeze the paper clip together a little bit to put them in. So it's almost like, do you remember the old magnets, how they came a little closer at one end? That's kind of what I do with the paper clip. I just kind of squeeze it together a little bit. So keeping in mind where those holes would be for your paper clip, sort of centered on the cork. And I don't measure that closely, but I just take the push pin and push it all the way down. This way I can push it on the table, or I can push it with my hand, and it's not as painful to try and push two in at the same time. So I take the one hole and then I make the second one a little bit closer than what the paper clip might be, the two paper clip ends might be. And it's not rocket science or anything, so don't get too technical about it. But as long as you can see the holes. Now, cork is like a sponge, and so, of course, as soon as you take your push pin out, it's going to start to squeeze together. So you want to make sure that you're pretty quick and that you can sort of see where the holes are. And then I just kind of squeeze them together and stick them both into the holes. So it's looking like that. And then I take a pair of flat nose pliers, something just enough to hold onto it. These are the worst ones. Don't ever buy these. I'm sure you've seen these. Don't buy them. These things are always coming off. I just use them here at this table because my good set is with my jewelry bag, and my jewelry bag is at the other end of the house right now. But yeah, just taking any kind of flat nose pliers. You don't need much pressure, and just push the two ends in. And you want to leave it sticking out a little bit because we're going to be hanging things from it. But if one side is shorter than the other, it really doesn't matter, because one side is going to make your hanger while the other side holds your tassel. So the smaller one we would use for the tassel, for the hanger. And then the larger, whatever larger loop you have, we would use for the tassel. Now, ideally, if you push it in once the first time, they've kind of expanded inside that cork. And like I said, the cork is like a sponge. It'll wrap around there. If you don't pull on it too much, you're fine. Nothing's going to come off of there. If you do pull it where it's loose and going in and out, you may want to add a couple of dots of glue to hold it in place. But if you've pushed it in the first time and it's there, don't mess with it. It's fine. It's not going to come out. You can sort of play with it a little bit, and you'll see that it doesn't pull out, and then you don't have to glue them. So going on to the other side now, I'm going to do the same thing. And now this time I want to keep an eye sort of where my pin is from the first one. Not that it really matters if it's twisted the other way, but you know, just to kind of give you a good eyeball view of where to push your pin in. And I'm just pushing that, making that first hole. And then while I can still see where the hole is, going sort of closer than what the paper clip ends would be. Pulling it out, and then squeezing my paper clip a little bit to match up to those holes. I'm just going to tuck them in. I know it's not something you can easily see, but I think it's kind of self-explanatory. And then using the pliers, once you've got them lined up into those holes, just gently push until you push it all the way down, as much as you want to or can. And, you know, if you were to examine mine, you'd see that I didn't quite line them up perfectly. It really doesn't matter, because this short one is going to be my hanger and this long one is going to be for my tassel. So it's that simple. And out of 2 paper clips, you get enough to do 3 corks. So I'm going to do all 3 here with you watching. And again, I'm just using my push pin to make the hole, and then going close to it to make the second hole. And these corks have little markings and dents in them, so sometimes it's not even easy to see where you put the hole in the first place. So you might be making your own new hole as you go along. But and then just taking my pliers, and this one is off center, but again, I don't worry about it too much. And I pushed that one in quite far, so I think that one's going to be my hanger. And then push pin in again, making the second hole close to the first one, a little bit closer than what the two paperclip ends are. Taking the paperclip, squeezing it a little bit so that they match up to those two holes. Pushing it in just enough to hold it, and then gently pushing it forward. Now this one I'm going to leave hanging out just a little bit more than the other one. And again, not quite perfectly lined up, but like I said, you will not notice that once we're done. Now these can then, once you've got the clips in between, you can join them together and make a cork curtain if you want, and put beads in between and use them as a bead in between other gems and maybe some dangles that you have, and make a really fun curtain out of them. You can paint these, you can wrap paper around them, you can wrap fabric around them, fibers, all kinds of goodies to dress them up into the colors that you want. And today we're probably going to use a combination of fibers and fabrics, but I'll just finish this one more piece, and then I can get these corks out of my way. So just using the two paper clips, I'm able to do 3 corks. Just going to find my push pin here. I don't think I went all the way down on the first hole here. I'm just going to go down again. Yeah. And then my paper clip, I'm going to squeeze it together at the same time. This one wasn't as far apart, so. And you don't have to get it all the way in the holes, as long as you've got it at least a little bit touching so that you can use your pliers to push it in. And make my holes again for this side. I don't watch that closely where I'm lining them up, as long as they're relatively in the middle. Even there I have been off a little bit. Pretty much on all of these. But when you see the finished result, you'll know that it really doesn't matter. Squeezing them together to match your holes. Can't even see the holes in here. In this one. There's so many little spots on these things. And then taking my flat nose and just gently pushing it in. So now we're ready to decorate them. Now I have a box of scraps here. And I'm going to use this scruffy looking piece. It's nothing fancy, right? And I'm just going to wrap it around. I'm not even going to glue it. I'm just going to wrap it around. And I don't care that it looks shabby, because that's the whole point, is that these are bohemian style of tassels made with scraps and leftovers. Now I have this fiber here. I'm going to use this to make the tassel. And so I'm just going to take some of that, and wherever I left off with the fabric, I'm just going to wrap this around. So you can see by the time we're done, we're not even going to really see much of the original color of the fabrics. Take my scissors, I'm going to trim some off. I'm still holding it in place. And I've got this gold crochet style cotton on the table. I'm just going to, wherever I left off, catch it with my thumb and just start wrapping this around. So it almost looks like a wooden spool covered with different materials. And so you could almost do the same thing with a wooden spool and just shove the paper clip right through the spool. So holding it in place, I'm just going to cut this, and then this little end that's sticking out, I've got my glue gun here. I'm just going to put a little dot of glue. And remember, your glue gun is hot. My fingers are used to it, but your glue gun is hot, so be careful when you go to press it in place. And that just holds it in place. And I have it basically wrapped. So that looks pretty good already, doesn't it? But I've had this, and you've seen me talk about this in other videos. I've had this piece of braid, and I just love this braid, and it's been sitting on my desk for the last few weeks. So I figured I'm going to use it today. I've already made a couple of these tassels, so you'll see. Got a little nubby end there. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on it on that one end. And where I glued, can't even feel it anymore. There it is. I'm just going to down the center of this, put this trim, wrap it around till I get to the other side. And so that it matches up evenly with the other one. And I'm going to snip that. No real measurement involved here. And a little bit more glue. And I'm going to glue that in place. Now there was this little bit sticking up. I'm just going to take my scissors and snip that off. And I have my tassel bead decorated. Now you can leave it like that and use it as a bead like that. Isn't that just the cutest thing? But we're going to make a tassel. So the small end is the one I'm going to use for my hanger. And then the bottom end is what I'm going to use for my tassel. So I had chosen this for my hanger. It's just a 3-ply cord. And so I'm just going to slip that through the paper clip. Sure, Kim, you're going to just slip it through. No, I'm not. Okay, so I'm going to put it through this way instead. Hopefully it won't unravel. Just because I'm doing this on camera, you know it's going to be harder to do. And it's going to unravel right in front of your eyes. Okay, doesn't want to do it. I did 2 of these. So I'm going to pull this paper clip out just a little bit. Now this one I might have to glue, but I'm hoping I won't. And we'll try it again, doubling it up. Yes, I got it. Okay. So now I'll cut that end. And I just pulled it through enough to pull these ends through. And that's what's making my tassel. Or my hanger, sorry, my hanger. I keep saying tassel, sorry. So that's going to be the hanger. Again, I don't have to put a tassel on the bottom here. I could put just beads. I could put charms. It is ready to go. I don't have to make the hanger that long. I can make it shorter. If you want to hang it off of a journal, it's very easy to hang off a journal at this point and just make a shorter hanger. You can just hang directly from the pin itself, from the paper clip. You don't have to put a hanger on it at all. So that's entirely up to you. And these top and bottom cork pieces that are showing, you could also cover them with a circle of paper if you don't really want the cork to show. But I kind of like the idea that it's made out of cork, and it's quite decorative on top as it is. You could also stain this with ink, although it might be a little bit late for me to do it now. But yeah, there you go. It still will stain a little bit. I've got enough ink on my pad to do it. So I've just given it a little bit of an ink stain on top. And so now the tassel. And I don't measure, I just wing it. It's maybe about 18 inches long once it's folded. And this is if you watch my Thrifty Thursday video, this is that great big ball of wool that I said I was going to use for tassels. And that's what I'm using it for right now. So that's about how long I want the tassel to be on this hanging down. So I'm going to cut one. And then that's what I'm going to use as a measurement for measuring additional pieces. So I'm going to cut a second one out of this same chenille. And because I wrapped this, let's make some room again here. Because I wrapped this with the brown fibers, I'm going to use some brown fiber in here. So let's use about maybe 3 of these. I want a nice chunky tassel. So there's one, and like I said, I'm just measuring to the first ones I've cut. 1, 2, and 3. And then I have this gold one. I'm going to cut a couple of those as well. So 1. Now you can use ribbon, lace, torn fabric, any kind of stripping pieces, but the fibers are always fun to use. And I'm going to cut a third one in the gold in the same length. But I'm going to use that to tie this in the center. So I'm pushing it through the middle of all of the fibers, like that. And I'm going to tie it in a knot, double knot. Only because this is so thick that it would be very hard to pass all of this through the loop on the bottom. So we're just going to tie it on by feeding this through the eye of the paper clip. Tie that into a double knot. And then let these 2 gold threads hang down with it. And again, I want to tie in this gold hanger in the bottom of the tassel. So I'm going to cut one piece, just like the rest of the ties. But this I'm going to unravel. Now this might take me a couple seconds to do. Because it wants to wind itself around itself again. Now you don't have to do this. I'm just doing it because of the cords I'm using, so it all depends on what you're using, but I just wanted the hanger to tie in with the rest of the tassel, so to have the same colors. I could have chosen a ribbon or a fiber in that color, but I just didn't have one handy. All right, so I've got one. This unravels to 3 strands. Oop. Oh, this is ornery today. There we go. And because I just tied this on, like if I roll this back here, you can see. I just tied this on. So there is lots of room. I could add charms on here. I could add more fibers. I could add beaded dangles, strings of bead or chain, whatever I want. But I wanted to tie in this color, so I'm just going to weave one through on one side of the tassel that I've already tied on and just loop it. Again, it all depends on what you decide you want to put on your tassel. And I'm just putting this other one on the other side so it just shares the color throughout. And because I've got 3, I'm going to use this one to make the tassel head. Now, if you've seen me make tassels, or if you've made tassels yourself, you know how to make the head of a tassel by wrapping this around a few times and then tying it off. And I tie it in a double knot. And let the ends hang down as part of the tassel. So there I have a tassel, and you see how easy that was to put together with the cork inside. Go out and make 100 of these. I'm going to make another one while I'm chatting. I've got enough to make 3 here, so I might as well do that. And I know I have been behind. If you watched my last video, my Thrifty Thursday, I've been saying that I'm behind on getting videos done because I've got a million excuses and the weather is beautiful and. But that is how it's going to be pretty much for the rest of summer. I'm going to focus more on doing things outdoors and not feeling guilty. But I will try to get in here as much as I can, but no guarantees, and I'm not going to hold myself to it, and I'm not going to feel badly if I don't. Is that okay? Good. Okay, so I wrapped some fiber around that fabric, and you can see, you really don't see that fabric at all by the time I'm done, but it just acts like a base. And now taking my gold thread, I'm going to tie that on, and I don't bother to glue anything until I'm at the end because each one holds the other one down. So it probably won't unravel. You could manually tie them all or glue them all. It's entirely up to you. Now that one end is sticking up, I'm going to take my glue and just put a little smidgen of glue. And just enough to hold that one in place. And I'm determined to use this whole piece of ribbon. So even after the camera is off, I'm probably going to still do a few more. I'm just putting a little glue on the end. I see I have a little piece sticking up, so I'm going to catch it with that glue down the center. Now you could put sequins down the center. You could hand stitch beads around here or wire them on with a wire. Anything that you have, you can glue gemstones all the way around. Anything you have on hand. Don't go out and buy anything. Use what you have, craft with your eyes wide open, and look and see what you have, because the whole point is to use things and use them up. We have a tendency to hoard things. I'm at the point now where I say whatever I've started, I've got to finish. So this will get finished today, and this is my whole focus, is this little piece of ribbon. So when this is gone, then my tassel making will be done. But it doesn't, and I'm also doing all in the brown. So I get to use some more of this brown wool and eventually use things up instead of hoarding things. We tend to hoard things because we think we won't be able to get it again. But one thing we need to remember is that once it's gone, there's something new out there that we can use. So try to get in that frame of mind where you use things up and get it out of your sight and off your table and gone, and then go out and find something new to play with. So it is endless, again, what you can do and how many different things you can make. Like you saw the scrap of fabric that's underneath here. You can still see a little bit of it, but not much. So it really doesn't matter what you use. You could use a piece of clothing. Maybe you've got some lining that is in a pretty color that you can use as a base underneath, or paper or book pages. But within seconds, I made this really pretty bead that I can either use this as a bead in itself, or I can use it to make a tassel. So this next one here, I'm just going to take, I had some book pages on the table here. So I'm just going to cut a piece of book page that is pretty close in size. It can be cut or torn, but I'm going to cut it just because it's not going to show that much anyway. Let's tear the end of it. Let's see if it fits. Oh yeah, that fits pretty good. Okay, somewhere on this table I have a glue stick. Can you still see everything with this big mess I have going on here? I sure hope so. I sure hope I've been in camera. That is my biggest fear, to do a whole video and find out that I wasn't in camera at all. And I've done parts out of camera view, and I apologize, but usually I try to go back and fix by adding on a little extra to the end of the video to show you. So I've just put glue on here and I've wrapped it around, and there again it changes the whole look of your bead. I could leave it just like this. It's ready to go and be added onto something else. I could use it as another add-on instead of putting a tassel. I could just keep going with this as beads and make some kind of a long beaded dangle to hang in the window. I can just take some trim and trim it up this way. Instead of book pages, I could use scrapbook paper. I could use music sheets. You could ink stamp on there, but I don't know that I would have the patience to do that. Maybe I would ink stamp on paper and then wrap the paper around. That might be an idea too. But yeah, I'm going to keep going because I like this look. So my next thing was the fibers. Although I do like that. That is pretty cute. I'd have to make some of those. These would be really cute as a starting point with maybe some Christmas braids and trims, and make dangles for the Christmas tree with some bright glass or acrylic red beads, and tassels would be very pretty. Might have to try that today yet. So yeah, you could start thinking about your Christmas ornaments. All right, I'm going to cut that. And then taking the gold. And I'm only using what I have handy here on my table. So there are other things I could be adding into this, but it just makes it easy to show you by adding what I have. So you can't even really see the book page anymore. So it just shows you again, it doesn't matter what you put on here. It's just building on top of one on top of the other to create this bead shape. A little bit of glue to hold that end in place. And the glue is hot. Trust me, it is hot. I just am so used to it that it doesn't bother my fingers anymore. And then a little bit of my braided trim. And just wrap around. Now this one I might have cut a little bit short. Let's see how we can match up. Oh, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good matchup. Okay, so all I have to do is go back now and make my tassels and hangers for these. But you can see this one was wrapped in fabric, this one wrapped in book pages, and you really can't tell much of a difference as far as the base. So anything goes. I'm guessing if I had more color, like if there was more like of a gold color underneath here, you might see it a little bit more if there's more contrast. But yeah, by the time you're done, you really don't see much of the base product, whatever you're using. So use whatever scraps you have on hand. But in no time at all, you'll have a collection of beautiful tassels. Because yes, I made a few while while I was waiting for you. So I have 3 made, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep going, like I said, until all of this fabric is done. So I'm guessing I could get at least 2 more, maybe 3, in my stash pile of things that are ready to go. And so I'm quite happy about those. And just to do a little follow-up with you, if you follow my Thrifty Thursday videos, I just finished showing that I had bought a belt, and it was made with this heart-shaped. Now, some of it I left in the, I left them attached in case I wanted to use them attached. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe I could do a cluster of them somehow, or go down the side of a page. So I left a section of 5 pieces, and I left a section of 4 pieces. So I did that right out. I took them apart right after I finished the video. And then these were all the ones I took apart. Now, wherever I took it apart, it is missing the little rivet in between. I can either glue a gemstone or a button or a tassel or some kind of decoration to cover it. That's not a big deal. This one was missing the decoration in the middle, so it has a hole in it. The second one, while you were watching me on camera, I went to take it off, but I ended up breaking part of it apart. And then when I tried it a third time, I realized that these things are too delicate to try to pull off of here. Sometimes you can get these off quite easily, but I've decided to leave them all in the centers just because they look nice and they would break if I try to take them off. The only alternative is I really want this as a decoration is to maybe hand cut around this to take it off, but it's not worth all the extra work. So I've left it on wherever it was intact. I left it in place. And these will just go in my stash now to use for future decorations. I think I mentioned in the video that hearts make really, really nice little corner pocket tucks. So if you have a page and you put one in the corner of the page and stitch it or rivet it down, like this one, I could put another rivet of sorts in there and do a matching one here. These make really good little side pockets. Any kind of heart shape makes a really nice little side pocket for doing on a journal. And then there was the center of the belt. I didn't realize when I was talking about this that this one is not made out of the faux leather. It's made out of a plastic piece. And then it has the buckle on the back. And in the video, I showed you the buckle, and I was able to get it down to this part where that's all that's left to break off. But it's a little harder than my capabilities, so I might have to call in my husband's strength and get him to take this off, or look at the possibility of just taking this little piece off here that's sticking out, because this does have a bit of a curve to it, so I don't think that this will make a big deal, this plate, if we can't get it off. But as long as I can get some of this piece, this metal piece that's sticking out off. And so there I have a nice focal point that I can use on a journal, on the cover. Again, I'm missing the one rivet here because this is where the hearts connected to each other. So I have to either put another rivet in there, or not rivet, eyelet, and I may have some in this size. This is the larger size of eyelet, but if I don't, I'm sure there are other things I can use to disguise that one little spot. So that's just to follow up on that belt. And the other follow up I wanted to do was in one of my way past thrifty videos, I had shown this beautiful daisy curtain that I had got in my thrifting, and while this is one of the bigger pieces, I had put the 3 pieces there. I had 3 huge pieces of curtain, and I put it in the wash, and it literally just shredded. All of the daisies are intact, but most of the white just disintegrated. I guess they were curtains that were on a window for so long that they just fell apart. And I do have some down here at the bottom I can show you. I might have taken them all in a bag, but they literally just shredded. They fell apart into pieces. And so some of them have holes in them. Here, like this. Yeah, I had taken all the ones to stitch with them. So what I will do is I will tear away, like you see how easy it is to pull that apart. They must have been in the window too long, and they must be made out of a fabric that has a lot of plastic in it or something, because I can literally just tear away the fabric, and I'm left with these daisies. So what I'm doing right now with them is I'm going to slow stitch them, or stitch them with the machine onto something else to make clusters. And I started to make one, and it looks pretty cute, so I think I'll continue with that process. But just unbelievable how it fell apart. So sometimes when you're buying things like this at the thrift shop, you have to be prepared that when you wash it, it may not work out as good as you thought it was going to work out. But it wasn't a total loss, because I can still use these daisies themselves in a project. But yeah, the bits and pieces. And if you would have saw my machine, I went, oh my gosh, because there was literally nothing left. In some cases, it was just dust. So yeah, a little bit disappointed, but not overly, because I can still use them in clusters as they are. So it's not a big deal. But yeah, I just thought I'd follow up and share that with you. So that's it for my tassel video. And I will be going on to a couple other things either today or this week. One of them is to show you my progression on my friendship journals. They're getting a little closer to being done, so I'm getting excited. And something I'm going to start talking about now, but it probably won't be till later in the week, is that I'm going to get the video up for my next junk journal giveaway. Another 3 boxes probably, because it seems like we get about 150 different people to 200 people commenting. So it looks like I'll probably be giving away 3 boxes again. And we are 100 people away from 1,500. I'm at 1397, I think, when I last looked. So we only have 100 subscribers away from 1,500. So by the end of this week, I'm going to start campaigning for that, and I'm going to have some fun things for you to do in order to get extra chances to win a box. And for those of you that have won a box and have shared with your peeps, they know what the boxes look like, and if you go and look at some of these videos, you'll see the kinds of things that I put in these boxes. So they're usually pretty full and lots of fun. So maybe you're going to want to get in on that and keep an eye out for that as that comes up. But that's it for my video for today. I hope you will go out and search out some corks and start playing around and have some fun. Have a very creative day and a creative week, and I look forward to seeing all of you very soon. Bye now.